Making sure that you have a solid legal foundation for your business or your passion project will give you the peace of mind and the confidence to go out and make the difference that you know you're meant to make. So today, I'm actually talking to my own business attorney, Lauren Ruiz, all about how to create that foundation. And also, we're going to answer some of the most frequently asked questions that she gets from fellow business owners. Thanks for hanging out with us for a bit today. I get to talk to not only my friend, but my personal business attorney. And we're going to be answering some questions directly from you about how to protect yourself legally, because this is something I wish someone would have taught me before I ever started a business, was just what to know, what to have in place so that I could build my business with peace of mind. So Lauren, thank you so much for hanging out today.
I'm so happy to be here. This is fun to be on the other side. I'm always listening in.
Now you get to listen to your own voice, which, trust me, no one likes to do.
I might skip this episode.
You'll have to double up on one of the other ones. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have been wanting to have you on the show for a while, and especially since you and I have started working together to get some of these pieces in place for Powerhouse women that, gasp, 3 years in, I'm finally now putting into place. But what stopped me for so many years from talking to an attorney was thinking that that had to be expensive, or it was a little bit intimidating, to be honest. So I would love if you would start off and share, the different business approach that you've taken to help people just like me, to help small businesses get these pieces in place and really create that solid foundation.
Yeah. Well, I came from corporate law, so I definitely understand how it feels like this big machine. And even us attorneys are kind of on that ride of this kind of traditional law path where, people are billed on minimum intervals of, 3 to, 6 to 15 minutes instead of, so if they work on your case for 3 minutes, you're billing you for 6. And that's how it gets really expensive. There's also large staff and large overhead, and all of those costs really do flow into a client's bill. And so when I was leaving corporate law, I really wanted to challenge myself to do it differently. And the way I wanted to do that was would I want to be billed as a small business owner myself? I know what it takes to bootstrap a business. I know what it takes to budget. And I understand that, caps are not unlimited, that when you have, something that you want to handle, you want to know and be able to anticipate what that cost is going to look like. For the most part, everything I do, has a regular flow to it. I've done it before. There are rare cases where, you're in a disagreement or you're in a negotiation for something where we can't anticipate the time. But for largely, a lot of the foundational items that you need to, support your business, those are things that we can anticipate. And that allows you peace of mind knowing, what your investment level is into your business and really feel good about that. So that you feel supported, but you also don't feel like you're draining your bank account.
Yeah. And I love that you are, I like say this and like sounds kind of weird, like you are one of us, right? Meaning you are an entrepreneur yourself. So you really are designing your services to fit those of us who are entrepreneurs and of businesses many sizes, but the needs fundamentally are the same, and you know them now because you are building a business of your own too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that I have found allowed me to relate with my clients is my ability to say like, oh, I get it. I spent an hour with the QuickBooks helpline yesterday too. Like we all have a lot of these things coming at us. And sometimes, just like you said, we put certain items on the back burner because it just feels intimidating. And we all have something in our business that feels intimidating. And I wanted to find a way to make legal something that was a lot more approachable, because I don't find it intimidating, and I'm here to be on someone's team to support them through it. So, just like everything else, reaching out to have people that can really invest in your business and be there alongside of you is kind of what I wanted to create. A lot of my friends that work for law firms, they enjoy what they do, and it has different features, but they themselves say, like, sometimes they feel that it's just very inefficient and they don't quite understand what entrepreneurship is. And so I think that there's a barrier to really relating with your client. And I think that's what I love the most.
Yeah, which we'll get to this at the end, but I'll have you share a little bit about your vision to support other attorneys who want to step into a role similar to what you've created. So stay tuned for that. But I would love if you would start, and this was actually one of the questions that came from our community when I shared that I was going to be talking to you and getting some questions answered on behalf of the people. But one of the questions was, if someone's just getting started, legally, what are some of the fundamental things that they should think about having in place? And I'll even add on to that question myself for, you work with businesses and they bring you into the picture at all different stages.
Mm-hmm.
I would even ask you to share why it's important to consult with an attorney and get some things in place before you even get started, if at all possible. And then what are those fundamental things that just business in general should think about considering from a legal perspective?
Yeah. So there's absolutely, and just like you said, everyone kind of handles these things at different stages in their business. I know I can be guilty of, certain fundamental things myself in other areas. And so there is no shame in doing it when you're ready. But what I will say is there's some things that are really attainable for people to do that they can do themselves, that they don't have to hire an attorney for. So my favorite things to do, if you are a local Arizona business, our corporation commission website is actually so easy and user-friendly. It's a lot more so than other states because, trust me, I've dove into those for other clients. But ours is actually an online filing system. So if you have a business name that you want to operate under, you can absolutely just, put it on an Instagram and open your business. But then you're considered what's called a sole proprietor. And your business and your personal life is really not distinct. And I know we've all gotten a little bit more comfortable with that concept of these blurred lines between our personal life. But when you're collecting money and you're maybe a service-based business or even a retail business, you're collecting money and you're just allowing it to pass through your personal taxes. You're also allowing those liabilities to touch your personal assets as well. And for those things, I really like to tell people, you can go on to the Corporation Commission website, file your LLC, which not only gives you this separate entity to operate under for your business and gives you that protection of any liabilities that you sign up under your business. So some trips and falls at your retail store, now they don't have access to your house or your savings. You're now taking and limiting that bucket, essentially think of it as buckets, to your business bucket. And you're really saying the liabilities, the assets that live within this business all stay in one place. So not only does it allow you to kind of separate these liabilities, but it also gives you the benefit of saying, like clarity, you can go get an EIN for free from the IRS. And now you can go get a business bank account. Kind of the ripple effect of going and filing for an LLC is the liability protection, the protection of your name that you would like to use in that area. Of course, trademark is a different item, and I don't say that that's the first thing anyone has to do. It's something to consider later on. But if you go ahead and do Powerhouse Women here in Arizona, no one can go file an LLC with Powerhouse Women. It's going to automatically set you apart. And it just opens a lot of doors to really creating a good foundation. And it's only $50 to do in Arizona. It's a lot more expensive in other states. So if you're operating out of here, you have a huge benefit to create all of these kind of resources for yourself by a simple investment of $50. So I would love to suggest people do that.
And that's such a simple first step. And since we do have people listening from even other countries, you would just I literally, when I went to file my business, I literally Googled, how do I set up an LLC, and then type in your state name.
Exactly. That's exactly how I would tell someone to do it.
Yes.
And be really careful. Do not fall for the tricks of, LegalZoom or those online services that say they'll file it for you. To be really honest, and I I don't even file LLCs for my clients because I honestly tell them like, it is so easy. I would be asking you for the same information that you're going to plug in. So knowing your name, knowing who's involved, who to send a notice to, all of those answers, and you really can fill them out yourself. And usually there's very good instructions on those online websites, whether it's somewhere in Texas or another country, there's guidance there. And generally the information just to get started is so little that you're ready. Like you're prepared to fill that out yourself.
Yeah.
So I love for people to do it. It's so inexpensive. And creates such a vast difference in the way you can not only operate your business day to day, but in the event anything goes wrong, that liability protection is going to be huge. And you're going to be glad that you did that, set that foundation up for yourself.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. Like even if you do a Google search, notice that the first things that pop up a lot of times are ads, and it's a company that wants you to pay extra. So make sure you're going through your government entity, whatever that is. That's such a good tip. And like she said, I mean, I did this in a matter of an hour.
Yeah.
And then filing for the EIN, which isn't that your employer identification number? Is that correct?
It's essentially, think of it as your social security number for your business.
Yeah.
This will allow you to get a business bank account. And again, that one is a big trick as well. If you type in file an EIN, that you'll see like services that do it for $99. It is free through the IRS. Granted, you have to do it during business hours, which is a weird catch like I've never seen before, but leave it to the IRS to leave that, to make that a restriction. But you can actually go straight to the IRS website and file it yourself for free. So all of these resources are really low-hanging fruits. They're going to give you the security, and they're also going to really honestly help elevate your brand. That's a big thing I talk about with my clients these days is we are all so invested in our presence and our brand. And one of those fundamental items is, securing your name and really giving yourself, a solid presence. And when you feel security in your name, you're going to feel a whole lot better about investing in those other parts.
Yeah. So I love that you're talking about the extra validity it gives you for the work that you're doing, because what I notice a lot within our Powerhouse Women family is we've got women who identify themselves as entrepreneurs. That's a title they wear with pride. And then I meet so many others who say, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not a business owner, but I have this Etsy store. But I have this blog that I might eventually take advertisements, in exchange for
your
money.
Side hustle qualifies.
Yes. Thank you.
Do not discount the side hustle, because your side hustle, if you want it to remain that, is wonderful. And it still deserves its own protections. And then on top of it, like, what if it becomes something bigger? I think it's something that people are afraid to really invest in, and they think it's the scary thing, but it's really like, it's online, it's simple, it's easy.
Yeah.
And there's really good instructions. You can do it yourself. And I almost think, I know you talk about this a lot, but I think those small investments, those micro investments, also have us double down on really where we're putting our time. So if you're saying, you know what, I'm going to go get myself an LLC, I'm going to get myself a bank account, I think those steps are going to say, you know what do I want this, what do I want this business to be? What number do I want to see in this bank account?
Yeah.
And create distinctions, I think, really allow you to create strategic goals. So it sounds silly, but it's these foundational legal elements will really flow into allowing yourself, space to grow and deciding what you want it to be. Because if you're holding back on filing an LLC name, what else are you holding back on?
Oh, that's so good. I love that. So then that's step one, filing that LLC, registering yourself with an EIN, opening your bank account. Now your side hustle or your business is open for business.
Right.
Now, this is the point where, for me, I thought, okay, I don't really need to worry about some of the other legal stuff until I start growing more, which I'm glad that we started to have the conversation when we did. I'm glad I didn't wait even longer. But for that next step, another question that came in was, if I'm a business owner, what are the first couple of contracts or agreements that I would want to get in writing for my business in order to now add that next layer of protection? I kind of look at it as building in layers. So what would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're building your toolbox of what am I going to refer back to? What am I going to use the most often? So I'm kind of a bargain shopper. I'm one of those, like, I want the best bang for my buck. So what's going to get you the best bang for your buck? Kind of this silent kind of foundational item that we don't think of is the operating agreement. So in the event that you're working with a partner, so if it's just, I mean, if it's just you, if it's just me in a business, like we're working on, for ourselves, you don't need an operating agreement. You have already completed your LLC, you're ready to go. But if you have a partner and you're saying, okay, we're splitting, our profit this way and the liabilities this way, and, you really go through kind of the process of, what happens if, one of us doesn't want to do this anymore. One of us, passes away. A disagreement happens that we just can't move past. That's what an operating agreement is going to answer. And that's a very fundamental item that I think anyone in a partnership needs. Now, I will say you're not going to pull it out unless something goes wrong. But when in the event that you do, you'll have created baselines and guidelines for you to walk through those next steps. So that's a really important one if you actually have a partner in your business. If you don't, we all tend to lean on other businesses to help drive us forward. I mean, you talk about this quite a bit, but we don't operate in a silo by ourselves. We all lean on other people's strengths to help, support our business. And so usually you'll see an independent contractor come in before anyone, does anything else. So before you're hiring your first employee, or, you're maybe leasing your first space, maybe you're reaching out to someone that's really good at graphic design, or, someone that's a virtual assistant. I mean, it's really endless what someone can support your business from as an independent contractor. And having a really good independent contractor agreement that is going to kind of flex with those different roles will allow you to kind of finalize like what the deliverables are, what you're going to pay them in the event, are they going to protect your information? They're a graphic designer or someone that's creating content for you. Who owns that content? Those are items that I think are really important. And I like to say, like, we generally work within our community and we feel safe working with people that we know. So on partnerships, we go, well, it's my friend, it's fine. Mm-hmm. But, or you hire a friend that's an independent contractor and you go, it's okay. I really think to protect your friendship and to protect the work product, the best thing you can do is put some things in writing. It doesn't have to be overwhelming, but it's something that needs to be thought out so that everyone knows what lane to operate in. And I think that that's going to make, those business partnerships or relationships really flourish. And I think you're going to thrive better when everyone knows what expectations to operate to.
Oh, amen to that. And I can just think back to different situations. Luckily, nothing escalated into a situation that involved actual legal matters, but even simple things that I thought were clearly communicated, that it ended up the other party had a different understanding of maybe how something was going to work or whose role was what in even the smallest of collaborations. So I always respect, if I'm going to enter into any kind of agreement with someone, if they come to me and say, hey, can we write this up? Can we get something in writing? That's like my love language. If someone proposes a contract, if not, I'm going to bring one to the table to protect those relationships that I really do value.
Yeah, I think, operating from, it's a very loving place to operate from. It's saying, we mutually respect what each other brings to the table, whether it's you paying them for their services or, them investing their time to create some beautiful content for you. But you want to know how to proceed. And I think that that's, a really great place to start. So I would say most people, if you've identified like, yeah, I have someone helping me. Yeah, they're my friend or they're my mom or they're, whoever it is, you should be, it's never a red flag for someone to say, you know what, I really want this to be a really strong relationship. How can we, outline what we're all expecting? Yeah. I really don't, I think that's something that we should all lean into more and not find intimidating. That's one of probably the most question I get asked is if someone does a service agreement, which would be the next thing I would offer as kind of a good piece to add into your toolbox. Say you offer services, you should have an agreement. Essentially, it operates a lot like an independent contractor agreement. It says, these are the services I'm going to offer you, and this is what it's going to look like. they always go, how do I give it to my customer? Like, I don't want, we have this really great, great consultation and we really hit it off. And then I'm just going to be like, here, sign my contract. Like, aren't they going to be upset with me? Or they feel that like, we really didn't, that I was being inauthentic? No, absolutely not. You should be, if someone doesn't want to sign an agreement, that should be a red flag to you. If it's something that really truly outlines exactly what the expectations that have been set are, everyone should be on board. And so I always tell people, my suggestion is you just make it part of the process. And if you don't blink, you're really going to feel okay about it. So you say, this was a great consultation. I'm really excited to help you with blank. The next thing you'll get from me is my contract. If you have any questions about it, please, send me an email. I'd be happy to answer them. They're going to feel that you really mean business, that you're going to deliver on what you said, and that you understand the documents you're putting in front of people. And I think that that's really empowering for a business.
I love that. That word empowering, I think, sums it up so beautifully. And then the building on this conversation of, just things that we want to have in writing. One of the other questions that came through from our community has to do more with a service-based business specifically who is dealing in any sort of health information. They're giving guidance, they're giving coaching. We could even expand this to other services, I'm sure. But for those business owners who are giving, let's just call it consulting, they're giving information, they're coaching, what extra layer of protection is important to have in writing between them and their clients? So we talked a little bit about between you and partners. Now what's important to have in place to protect you and just really honor both parties between you and your clients?
Yeah. So between you and your clients, it's that relationship of kind of what's the give and take. And I think sometimes when we want to put in front of someone a service agreement, we say, this is what I can do for you. But what we don't say is where the client has to show up in order to make that relationship work. So if they need to be following the diet, or they need to be completely honest with you about their symptoms or how they're feeling or their concerns or what they're really willing to effort they're really willing to put forth, those things should be in your service agreement as well. Hey, this is a two-way street, especially in coaching. This is a two-way street for you to take what take really growth from what I'm offering you, or to achieve those results that we're writing down here. This is what I'm going to need for you. Because not only does that get them on board with, yeah, you know what, I am ready to commit to those things and show up in that way, but it's a good mindset shift for your client to make sure that you really are signing up the right client. Because if they're not willing to sign it because that sounds like too much, they're probably your wrong client. But
that's a gift to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's a gift to you because that was never going to really work the way you wanted it to. But if also your client doesn't follow through, they say, yeah, I'm on board. But then they realize, you know what, this is just too hard. And they're like, I don't think you are worth what I paid you because I didn't achieve the results that you said I could achieve. And you say, well, actually, you usually skipped our weekly calls, or, you were admitted that you really didn't follow my advice in this area. You can point back to something in the contract that says, this was your responsibility and any failure on your part does not impact, kind of my services. I've given to you in the way that I said I would show up, and you didn't. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. But that doesn't discount my value. There's not, a right to cancel because you're not getting the results that you want. Or if there is a right to cancel, what does that look like? How can a service provider protect their time? I always tell people one of the worst thing that's probably going to happen to you in business is that you're not going to get paid. To be really honest, a lot of disputes that I see are about payment and pride. And the more you can set clear expectations, I think the better you can protect both of those from happening. So, I always tell people, don't overextend yourself. When you're considering how you want to work a service-based business, think about how you're going to protect your time and where those payment intervals come up. Are there milestones? Do they pay beforehand? And really hold true to those. So if someone's not paying, you don't just, kind of go through, lean on their promises and say, they said they're going to pay me, so I'll just keep working for them. Be really true to yourself and protect your business, because as much as you want to serve, you need to be compensated for the way that you're serving, and not over really, I guess, invest in a client that really isn't seeing your value or holding up their end of the deal. And so clear expectations, clear payment procedures would probably be your best friend as a service provider. And those disclaimers of like, these are your responsibilities and I can't promise these results, are really going to be a great piece to include in any coaching or kind of mentorship contract.
Yeah. And I love how you've set this up so beautifully with examples about typically where we would want a contract or an agreement in writing in place is when things don't go smoothly. We don't want it to happen. Sometimes it happens in business, but the time to talk about it is actually when everyone in the relationship is at an emotional high. We're excited to get started. We're clearly laying out communication or expectations. And that was the part that I think I had backward, was that point you made about feeling almost like it wasn't needed because, look, this is going so well. We're all excited to enter into this agreement. But that is actually the best time to put something in writing. And I think, going back to your point about empowerment, it empowers you as the business owner and the service provider, and it empowers them to make a choice to say, am I willing to put in this work? Am I willing to meet my part of the agreement? And I think the only reason I wouldn't have seen myself putting that into place in the beginning would be out of fear that I would lose a client. Mm-hmm. But like you have said time and time again, and it is so true, if that's the case, if someone isn't willing to meet you that halfway or give their 100% truly, then it's probably doing you a favor in the long run.
Yeah, I think so. And I think being willing to accept that is probably one of the best things we can do as business owners, is, knowing where your boundaries are and honoring those. And I think a contract is a really great way to establish those baselines and, make sure that every relationship you enter to has mutual respect. Yeah. And at the heart of that, if you've got something that really fits your business, it's going to feel natural to your client. It's going to feel natural to you. And you probably won't pull it out again, and that's okay. That's probably that's the best thing I could want for a client, is to have someone sign their service agreement and no one ever look back at it.
Yeah.
In the event something goes wrong, the security of knowing that either party has that to rely on, either the person investing the money or investing the time, I think, everyone will be happy that was a part of your foundation. So,
yeah. So I want to maybe throw a little curveball, not in a bad way. I'm curious to know, what's a question you wish more business owners asked you? Like, what do we not even know to ask an attorney?
Let's see. I think honestly, sometimes what we do is we get hung up on things that are driven by money. We're trying to protect our, investment in X. But what we're not really looking at is, how can I use a contract to hold myself more accountable to the way I want to do my services? So I've had people come to me and they say, this is how I've always done it. Sometimes the best question you can ask is, this is my goal. How do you suggest I do this? Because I am happy to draft it if you are very secure in the way that you offer your services, collect payment, whatever. I will go ahead and draft it the way that you want, because that's where you are, and that's great. But if you say, what, I want to use this as an opportunity to better my business, what do you suggest? What have you seen other people in my industry do? Because we've likely done it multiple times in your particular category, or we've done something really cool for someone in a different industry that would be great for you to implement into your own business. So I've had times where I told someone, do you mind if I just kind of interrupt here and say, I really would suggest you consider And then it turns out they go, you know what? I've been thinking about that for a long time, but I'm just a little too scared to pull the trigger. And I said, well, why don't you just try it out? I mean, we can always default back to the old way, but what if you opened yourself up? And so sometimes we're in our narrow lanes and we don't think about it. So I think the best question you can say is, this is how I've always done it, but I'm really wanting to grow into this. What do you suggest? Because we probably have something fun. And honestly, like that area lights me up. Like I can draft all day for exactly how you want things to do, or be done. But if you say, I've got this this little piece in me that doesn't feel like my business is answering that problem or reaching that goal, maybe there's something that we can do foundationally to kind of implement a strategy for you to reach that goal. And I think that part's really fun.
Ooh, I love that question. I'm glad I asked you so that I could get that question, because
Yeah.
I think you're right. And I think there's probably other service providers that support us in business that we could ask that question to. How
Yeah.
would you suggest, based on my goals, how would you suggest I get there? I think that's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah, I think, it's two heads are better than one, and leaning on a different point of view is always a great way to grow your business. And, I think there's so many people that can, give you like just that little nudge maybe that you needed. And I really enjoy that part.
I love that. And like I started to mention earlier, I believe that the way you are approaching supporting small business is a wave of the future. I think that more and more attorneys are going to utilize these unconventional, thinking outside the box ways of supporting the growing number of entrepreneurs. So talk a little bit about what you are wanting to do in order to support other attorneys, or how they should get in touch with you if there's any listening today, because I know you're going to be doing some really cool things coming up later this year and beyond.
Yeah. So later this year, I'm really working on, leaning into this community. Like I said, I identify as a small business owner as well. And I'm sure that any other solo practitioners feel the same way, but they also, like most of us, feel lonely in this practice because we can go to, wonderful small business events, but maybe we don't identify with some of the resources that are made available to creatives or, retailers. And we're just kind of trying to find our place. And I will say, we come from law school, which was innately competitive. Most people head into some kind of big law career, which is innately competitive. And when they enter off on their own, there's that mechanism of trying to show that, oh, everything's going fine. I have no questions. My business is just, drumming right along. And, I don't need anyone else's feedback. But I think like anything else, we all would be better off with a little bit of shared resources.
Yeah.
So I started to recognize right around the time I went to Powerhouse Women last September that I was growing a community of attorneys as well. And I wanted to make sure that I was serving that, we just all aren't hiding behind our screens and saying, I really like how she does it. I think this is I'm just going to try this, rather than, having the ability to reach out and be like, I am loving what you're doing. Can you tell me how you decided to do that? Or I'm really struggling in this area. Do you have any suggestions? And that's something that, only a few people have actually reached out and kind of broken that barrier on. We're like all afraid to admit that we're spying on each other. We're like in, social media stalking each other and loving what people are putting out into the world, but we're not afraid, we don't have the community or the platform to talk about it. So just like, the platform that we have in so many other areas, I want to give a very curated platform for solo entrepreneurs or practitioners that are really, either looking to start their own law firm or scale their own law firm. And they just feel like they need someone else on their side. And I think that there's a big wave of us women that are saying, you know what, big law jobs is not the right fit for me. And there's got to be a better way. And there definitely is. I mean, getting out into your community and really getting to interact face to face with your community members is so much more rewarding than the really big gig sometimes. And if that's what's on your heart, it would be really, I'd really like to offer that support for other people who want to impact their community, like I hope that I have.
And well, I can speak personally for the impact you've had on my life and my business. And the world definitely needs more of you because you are only one woman. So I am so excited, as you know, about what it is that you are now creating to support other attorneys who are feeling that call to do the same.
Yeah. And I think you've done, a lot of your messaging, I think, has really spoken to me, that it's about moving beyond the scarcity concept, that, we need to keep all of this in for ourselves, and really trying to, talk about really the abundance that can come from, a collaboration or working together, or just like sharing, being vulnerable, sharing like what's working, what's not working.
Yeah.
Because I think, that's just a space that will really allow us to grow beyond like just that social media interaction, like the double tap on the picture, or like the, kind of generic comment. I really want us to move beyond that. So that's kind of my hope. And a lot of that was spurred by everything that you've been putting out into the world. So I really appreciate it.
Well, that is like the coolest thing to hear. And that's what this is all about. So where can people connect with you if they want to learn more, or just be your friend? Because everyone should want to be your friend. Where is the best place for people to connect?
So you can follow me on Instagram. It's Lauren Ruiz _GMB. I will say I've got a little fear around changing my name this year, because
you're getting married.
I'm getting married. So I think we're going to kind of, at least on Instagram, it really follows over. So follow me on there. You can join my newsletter for, small businesses that are growing. I really try to put out legal updates and just encouragement around kind of the legal space and getting, grounded. So follow my newsletter. Everything that you want to find is all on my Instagram. It's a really good launching point. So Lauren Ruiz _GMB. If you're watching this later in the year, it might be different. So look at Lindsay's and stalk her.
You'll be able to find, if you can't find her, let me know. And I'll link all of it in the show notes so people can easily access that and find you.
Yeah.
But I want to wrap up with really a same question that we ask every guest. But so now I want you to take off your lawyer hat.
Okay.
And just speak from the heart as a fellow woman entrepreneur, because my God, do we know that this is a crazy journey. And you know that, in this community, we really stand for helping other women get out of their own way and into action. And I think one of the best ways that we do that is just through our honest experiences and our stories as a catalyst for inspiring others. So if there's women listening, or men, I know there's men who listen to this too, but someone who has the seed of their first big idea and they just need a little word of encouragement to take the next step, what would you say?
I would say you're going to regret waiting longer. That was the piece of advice that I got from a mentor of mine when I was considering this like little idea of building my own firm and leaving corporate law. And they said, you know what, you're just going to regret that you didn't do it sooner. And those words really stuck with me. And that was exactly the motivation that I needed to take the little jump. Now, I don't suggest everyone like quit your 9 to 5, but like the people we were talking about, start that side hustle, get that name, create a partnership agreement. And, even if you just get some things on paper, put it out into the world. And I think you'll find that as soon as you start to do that, it really is going to kind of, I think, allow you to flourish and thrive in that idea. Give it some space. And so I think that's the thing. Don't just do it now. Do something small now. And this way you can start to build on it.
I could not love that more, and I could not love you more. So thank you so much for being here today and just sharing what you shared. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.